Hey folks, it's Craig from the Vinyl Record Player. Today I'm going to be ranking the solo albums of Delaney Bramlett. Stick around. Alright, so let's rank the albums of the solo Delaney Bramlett. A little bit of background on Delaney Bramlett. He was in a band, sort of white soul, blue-eyed soul, sort of gospel feel. I've never been into blue-eyed soul, and the concept itself, I was like, because there's so many great soul. You don't necessarily have to go blue-eyed to get excellent soul. Then at some point, I just came across and I was like, okay, I'll check out Delaney and Bonnie. A lot of fantastic stuff, a lot of really great sort of gospel stuff. But post Delaney and Bonnie, Delaney Bramlett had really, he technically had 6 or 7 albums. I really only have 4. He did do 3 after a long break between like basically 77 and 98. He put out nothing. I'm not going to talk about his 3 albums post basically 77, because those albums, there's a lot of retreads of his old songs, etc., etc. So at any rate, little bit of background. Obviously Delaney and Bonnie was a big thing. Eric Clapton ended up actually post Blind Faith, basically Delaney and Bonnie toured with Blind Faith, and Blind Faith, kind of known, they just didn't get along. Ginger Baker was in the mix. I'm not saying that was the issue, but let's be real. So basically, on the tour, Eric Clapton makes big friends with Delaney and Bonnie. They start hanging out. They go on tour. They release a classic live album, Delaney and Bonnie on tour with Eric Clapton. This video, of course, is about Delaney's solo career. So we're going to go into that. And on the Eric Clapton tip, as an honorable mention, not necessarily, I'm gonna call this an honorable mention. This is Eric Clapton's first LP, entitled Eric Clapton. Now, I almost would call this a Delaney album. If you have listened to this album and you like this album, this is basically a Delaney album. A lot of the songs are kind of co-written. He produced it. A lot of the same people that were in, Delaney and Bonnie and Friends are on this record. It's a great record. I think it's actually probably like a Clapton number 2 or number 3 type of record. Maybe even number 1 on some days. Again, this is not Delaney, but wow. It might as well be a Delaney solo album. So, we'll head to number 4 of his 70s work, which of course is, let's start with Delaney and Blue Diamond from 1975. Now, part of obviously the philosophy of this channel is I like to find stuff that is hard to find, on streaming, like it's not available on streaming, or it's just hard to find in general. And this is definitely one of those albums. I don't even know that there's a YouTube clip for it. Basically, this, I think it's from 75. This is on MGM. This was his only album on MGM. I think this Blue Diamond is the band. I mean, we get the nice photo of the band on the back. They're real cool. They're real 70s. This is not a great record. It's not that the band is terrible. In fact, the band is great. I think the band sounds great. I just think that the tune selection is pretty weak. Most of these songs are written by Delaney, which is, usually the case. But this album kind of feels a little patched together. He does a cover of Otis Redding's My Lover's Prayer. It's not great. So yeah, let's just call this his number 4 album, which is, like I say, there's just nothing super exciting. There's no big song on this album, which is, again, part of the reason why he was only on MGM, probably for 1 record. This is his 1977 LP, Delaney and Friends, on the Prodigal label. Now, This is number 3. This is actually not a bad record. It almost seems like he's like, oh, this is kind of, I'm getting to the end here. He signs to Prodigal, right? Prodigal is a subsidiary of Motown, and if you've read anything about Motown history, the big artists did well, but a lot of the sort of less concentrated on artists just did terrible. Prodigal is then their secondary label. So what are you going to expect? There's a few great artists on the Prodigal label, but the fact is that they just put no money and no promotion into it. So as a result, yeah, we've got this record. Now, this is actually a fun record, and actually it's a lot more upbeat and exciting than his record with Blue Diamond. Locked Up in Alabama is my choice for the cut. It's kind of disco-y, as obviously everything in that era is, but super anthemic. Really like that song. Every Day's a Holiday is great. I Wish It Would Rain, cover obviously, I believe that's a Temptation song. It's okay. But like I say, the whole sound of this record is actually quite good. Obviously, he went nowhere. This was his last album until 1998. But this is a fun record. You might be able to pick this record up for like $2-3. I think I picked it up for very little. And it's a fun record. It's not going to be your favorite album of all time, but it's funky. He's kind of, there's some disco elements, there's some soul elements, there's some gospel stuff. It's less of a blues rock record, I think, than the Blue Diamond record. And I just think, like I say, it's just more, just on the strength of Locked Up in Alabama alone, that's just a fun tune, and it just seems like something that could have been big, but of course, it's on the Prodigal label. Nothing was big on the Prodigal label. So let's hit to number 2. His number 2 album, of course, would be Mobius Trip. Let's try to get the Mobius Trip from Strip, rather. From, I believe this was 73. This is a good album too. This is a really decent album, I would say. It's better because the production's better. This is on Columbia. One of his best songs, California Rain, is on this one. Are You a Beatle or a Rolling Stone? It's pretty well done. A lot of good gospel-y sort of vibes. Very similar to Delaney and Bonnie. I like it. It's a great record. Again, it's not going to change your life. None of these are. But this one, I believe, is just, in terms of the record, it's just above Delaney and Friends from 1977. So, like I say, good record. Probably, if you're a fan, you'll probably want to pick this one up. And of course, number 1, let's talk about Something's Coming from 1972. Of course, a lot of ring wear on this one. This one is obviously not in the best of condition. I think I ordered this one, but I feel like I probably bought it used. And you get the back cover, which is kind of weird and cheesy. At any rate, this one is his best album. I think he's coming right off of Delaney and Bonnie. He's on a major label. He's trying to kind of regain that what he had with Delaney and Bonnie. There's a couple of songs. Over and Over is on this one. That one actually was on the last Delaney and Bonnie LP, and it actually starts this one. And overall, it's a very good record. It's very listenable. There's some tunes with some like very African style beats going on. There's some funk happening in this one. I would say that this record almost feels like him rejuvenated after Delaney and Bonnie, which was, and again, I think that Delaney and Bonnie's last album, which I'm missing the name right now, but basically it's I think one of their best albums. But this one does feel kind of like a little bit of a restart, and a lot of energy on this record. This one, out of the records that I've shown, I would say the ones that are kind of, that you must have if you're a Delaney fan, would be this one, and probably, again, Mobius Trip. These are probably going to be like your best choices. But on kind of an honorable mention on that. I mean, this record's fun. And if you can get it for like $2 or $3, pick it up. Okay, so then ranking the albums. At number 1, Something's Coming from 1972. Mobius Trip from 1973. Delaney and Friends from 1977. And then Delaney and Blue Diamond, Giving Birth to a Song. Again, don't even really love the title of this one. So that is it. That is me ranking the albums of Delaney Bramlett. If you're a fan, let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what your favorite jams and or I guess really albums are by him. I'll probably do a separate Delaney and Bonnie video. But yeah, have yourself a good one.